My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 31 years old. Until a year ago, I believed that no matter how unfair my parents could be, blood would always find its way back to love. I couldn't have been more wrong. My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 5 years. He wasn't rich or famous, but he was the kind of man who made every ordinary day feel safe. After months of doctor's appointments, sleepless nights, and wondering if we'd ever become parents, I finally saw the two pink lines I'd prayed for. I cried before I even showed Daniel the test. He wrapped me in the tightest hug and whispered, "We're finally getting our miracle." Keeping the pregnancy secret was nearly impossible. Every time my phone rang and my mother invited us to dinner, I wanted to tell her. Every time my father asked when we planned to start a family, I had to bite my tongue and smile. But there was one reason I waited. My older sister, Jessica, had always been the center of my parents' universe. If she succeeded, they celebrated for weeks. If I succeeded, they changed the subject. It had been that way since we were children. Even Daniel noticed it after only a few family gatherings. Still, I convinced myself this news would be different. A baby had a way of healing old wounds, or so I hoped. When my parents invited everyone over for Sunday dinner, I bought a tiny pair of white baby shoes, wrapped them in a gift box, and slipped the ultrasound photo underneath. As dessert plates were cleared away, my hands trembled beneath the table. I stood, smiled through my nerves, and said, "I have some wonder for a moment." The dining room was completely silent. My mother looked at the tiny shoes, then at the ultrasound photo. My father didn't smile. He didn't even congratulate me. Instead, both of them slowly turned toward Jessica. My sister stared at the gift box before lowering her head. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I was going to tell everyone next month," she whispered. The fertility treatments failed again. Daniel reached for my hand beneath the table, sensing the mood had changed. I squeezed his fingers, still hoping someone would simply say, "Congratulations." Instead, my mother wrapped her arms around Jessica. "Oh, sweetheart," she cried. "This isn't fair. You should have been the first." I blinked, unsure I'd heard her correctly. "What?" I asked quietly. My father stood, his face hard. "Emily, couldn't you have waited before making this announcement?" Daniel frowned. "Waited? She's sharing happy news." "You don't understand," my father snapped. "Jessica has dreamed about this for years." "So have we," I replied, my voice shaking. Jessica wiped away her tears. "Emily, I know this isn't your fault." But my mother interrupted before she could continue. "The first grandchild was supposed to be hers." Those words hit me harder than I expected. I stared at both of my parents, searching for even a hint that this was some terrible joke. "There isn't a prize for being first," I said softly. "This baby is part of our family." My father's anger exploded. "You've always been selfish," he shouted. Daniel immediately stepped between us. "That's enough." In the confusion, my mother rushed forward, angrily trying to shove past Daniel toward me. Her hand struck my abdomen during the chaotic moment. Daniel quickly guided me backward while raising his arm to create space. The room froze. Jessica gasped. My mother covered her mouth, suddenly realizing what had happened. Before anyone could speak another word, ding, dong, the doorbell echoed through the silent house. Everyone turned toward the front door, all news to share with all of you. No one moved. The only sound in the house was the doorbell echoing for a second time. Daniel looked at me first. "Stay here," he said quietly before walking toward the front door. My parents remained frozen. My mother's face had lost all its color, while my father kept glancing between me and the entrance, as if he couldn't decide which problem was worse. When Daniel opened the door, two people stood outside. One was Officer Rebecca Collins from the local police department. Beside her was a paramedic carrying a medical bag. "Good evening," the officer said calmly. A neighbor reported loud shouting and was concerned someone inside might need assistance. Before anyone else could answer, Daniel stepped aside. "My wife is pregnant," he said. "There was an argument, and we're worried she may have been hurt." The paramedic walked straight toward me. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you a few questions," she said gently. "Can you tell me how you're feeling?" I'm shaken, I admitted. But I don't know if I'm injured. She checked my pulse, asked about my pregnancy, and carefully recommended that I be evaluated at the hospital as a precaution. My mother suddenly found her voice. This is all a misunderstanding, she insisted. Nobody meant for anything to happen. Officer Collins nodded politely, but continued observing the room. Everyone will have an opportunity to explain, she replied. Then something unexpected happened. Jessica stood up. No, she whispered. Everyone looked at her. She wiped away fresh tears before facing the officer. My sister didn't do anything wrong. My parents stared at her in disbelief. Jessica took a slow breath. They've always treated me like I mattered more. I never asked them to. I begged them to stop comparing us years ago. Silence filled the room. They're angry because they thought I should have the first baby, she continued. Emily has spent her whole life paying for their favoritism. For the first time that night, my parents had nothing to say. The truth was no longer hidden behind closed doors. And every person in that room finally saw our family exactly as it had always been. The drive to the hospital felt endless. Daniel never let go of my hand, even while the nurses guided me through a precautionary examination. Every minute felt like an hour until the doctor finally returned with a warm smile. Your baby looks healthy, she said. Everything appears normal, but I'd like you to take it easy for the next few days. The relief hit me so hard I burst into tears. Daniel wrapped his arms around me, and for the first time that night, I felt safe. The following morning, Officer Collins contacted us to complete her report. She explained that the incident would be documented and that any future concerns should be reported immediately. Hearing those words made me realize something important. I didn't have to keep excusing behavior that had hurt me my entire life. Later that afternoon, Jessica came to our apartment alone. She looked exhausted. I'm sorry, she whispered. Not just for yesterday, for every time I stayed quiet while they treated you like you mattered less. I hugged her before she could say another word. Their choices weren't your fault, I said. She nodded through tears. Our parents called repeatedly, but neither Daniel nor I answered. For the first time, protecting my own little family mattered more than protecting their image. As Daniel placed his hand over my growing belly that evening, I smiled. I finally understood that real peace doesn't begin when toxic people change. It begins the moment you stop giving them the power to control your future. 1 year later, our home sounded completely different. Instead of arguments and painful silence, it was filled with the laughter of our beautiful baby girl, Lily. Every morning, Daniel carried her into the kitchen while she reached for my face with her tiny hands. Those simple moments reminded me that the family we built together was stronger than the one I had spent years trying to fix. Jessica remained part of our lives. She kept her promise to stop living in our parents' shadow, and slowly, we built the sisterhood we'd never been allowed to have. Our parents reached out several times, but they never truly accepted responsibility for what happened. Until accountability came before excuses, I chose to keep my distance. Looking back, I no longer measured family by shared blood or old traditions. I measured it by love, respect, and the people who stood beside me when I needed them most. Because becoming a mother taught me the greatest lesson of all.